Thank you.
The presentation time is 15 minutes, including QA. Please welcome our speaker, Kelvin, with huge round of applause.
All right, thank you for the introduction. And again, the topic of this presentation is MLOps in Mercari Group's Trust and Safety ML team. The goal of this presentation is to introduce to you about the automation processes for the ML workflow that we implement in our team, which may inspire you to build yourself, build your own, or even use our framework as a reference. So without further ado, let's start the presentation. So yeah, a brief introduction about myself. I'm Calvin, and I'm currently an ML engineer in the Trust and Safety ML team in Mercari. My work mainly revolves around MLOps, data analysis, and other ML-related tasks. So here are my social media handles. It's quite a lot, but yeah, I hope that you actually can find me somewhere out there in the internet. But I also put up QR code already, so like you can scan that too. For the GitHub account. Right, so the agenda. First, I'm going to introduce to you about what trust and safety really mean in Mercari and the responsibility of our team. And also, I'm going to introduce to you again about the system architecture first before we dive into the automation steps that we have. And also, I'm going to introduce to you about what MLOps really means for those who haven't actually done any MLOps yet. And also, finally, I'll kind of like give 2 examples of the struggles and learnings we encountered along the way. Right, so first, introduction. So what does trust and safety really means at Mercari? So as you may know, Mercari essentially provides flea market app where users can buy and sell second-hand goods. It's based in Japan and US. And also, over the years, we have expanded our services to include payment apps, credit lendings, credit cards, Bitcoin trading, and also recently part-time job listings. But for the payment apps, we call them as the fintech side and the flea market app as the marketplace side. So this expansion naturally leads to an increase in the number of people joining the Mercari ecosystem, including those who may have harmful intentions. So our job is to ensure that the ecosystem remains free of such individuals and that our users can safely utilize our services without having to care about these issues. To achieve this, we primarily focus on 3 key areas. So the first one is the fraud detection. The second one is preventing these policy violations. And finally, monitoring every listing and transaction in our services. Right, so what are our responsibilities? The most straightforward way to monitor all transactions would be to check each one individually, using human operators. However, this approach might not scale well, obviously. So similar to other e-commerce company, we basically employ rules and ML models to help us do this job. So we have, again, the marketplace side and the fintech side, and we have these 3 types of moderations here. So on the marketplace side, we basically have what we call item moderation. We check the listings of the users, see whether any of them violates our policy or not. And then in the fintech side, we have account moderation where we check multiple accounts because it's not allowed in our ecosystems, easily usable. And then fake IDs, people with fake IDs actually register into our ecosystem as not allowed. So in the transaction moderation, we check credit card frauds and also phishing attacks. Right, and let's dive into the system architectures. So again, divided into like marketplace side and fintech side. So in the marketplace side, we have a real-time system, and the fintech side, we have the pipeline-based system, a batch job system. But we are in the process of kind of developing real-time system for the fintech side too. Okay, so first on the marketplace service architecture. So I'm going to kind of briefly introduce to you our architecture. So when a seller uploads a listing, it will go into the listing service. The listing service is going to publish everything, the listing contents into the topic, and then the topic will push the contents into the proxy service, which we manage, and then the contents will go through the prediction service, where the prediction really happens, and then the prediction results will be pushed back into the proxy service, and the proxy service will kind of reroute that into another topic. PubSub topic we have here, the detection topic, and then the detection topic will push the results of those detections into the checker service, and then the human operators will check all of those for further labeling. And then for the second one, we have the fintech service architecture. It feels more complicated than the marketplace side, but it's not actually. So I'm going to break down every segment for you. So first, we have the feature update. So the feature update part, this is where we keep all of the features necessary for predictions up to date. So we use what we call dbt. So I think some of you might already know this already. So it's kind of like a data transformation tool. So it helps us kind of materialize all of the features to up to date, and we use Cloud Scheduler to schedule those jobs, and all of the features will go into BigQuery, the tables in BigQuery, right? And then after that, we have compiled pipelines in the cloud storage, and then we use Cloud Composer to schedule those pipelines. So it's going to take all of the compiled pipeline manifests and then push it into Vertex AI pipelines, and then Vertex AI pipelines is going to run that job. And when the job starts, it's going to read the features that we have materialized before, and then we are going to use the model in the Vertex model registry, and then kind of like predict the predictions, and then the prediction results is going to Cloud Spanner. And in the fintech side, we have we kind of like maintain two Cloud Spanners between our side and then the checker service side, and then we kind of like sync it together using PubSub, just like the marketplace side, and then the results are going to be shown into the checker human operators. And then we also do some triggering mechanism, 3DS secure, so for credit card transactions. So like for risky accounts, we kind of like keep another layer of measure, security measure here. Right, so into the MLOps, so basically when you do an machine learning development, there's typically a flow that you will follow. So you discuss with stakeholders on what kind of requirements you want to have in your models, and then you kind of collect the data, you train the model, you compare the model, evaluate them, and then you deploy the model if you're satisfied with the performance, and then you do monitoring. And what MLOps really do here is to kind of like increase the automation percentage over all of these processes so that the developers can do their real job more easily. So in our team, we kind of like automate these steps already. Honestly, if I can automate the stakeholder side, I will also do it, but maybe the LLM advance in the future, but right. So, so basically, we have the automations, but some of them obviously cannot be automated. So we still use some kind of manual development, and some of them we kind of like prepare templates for. So let's dive into each automation steps. So for the first one, we have experimentation. And during experimentation, you load the data, you do data analysis, and then compare the model, evaluate, and then error analysis, and then you rinse and repeat. Right? So what automation do we implement here? Honestly, we only package the template notebook. So we created template notebooks so that our team members don't have to start from scratch. So it's easier to kind of fork and modify the template notebook as you wish. So it's easier to kind of like onboard people into our team. And then in the creating and using features, so first when creating features, as described before, we use dbt. So if you know about dbt has like 3 advantages, so that which are actually the reason why we use dbt. So like the first is when you model SQL files in dbt, you can actually kind of like make cross-referencing all of the SQL, so like you can make dependencies easily. And then because it uses Jinja, if I'm not mistaken, as the template engine, you can also kind of like leverage the parameterized values, and then you can also do testing and validations on the materialized values. So like the training and the inference pipelines then refer to these tables to train the models or make predictions. So, and then the next one is under development when using the features. So we automate the sync between offline and online feature store using data flow jobs, and this runs in schedule. So this ensures that the real-time system will have less delay on the features and lessen the discrepancy between batch and real-time predictions. Okay, on the model training side, we automate the training trigger using a GitHub action workflow that detects all pushes to the repository branch, triggering a training pipeline based on the configuration file stored within the repo. This allows us to sync kind of the configuration with the trained model. So you see the configuration, you know that this the model that is being deployed or like in the model registry is the one using this config to kind of train itself. Additionally, the trained models have the artifacts logged in Vertex AI experiments for easier debugging and comparison. right? So it's easier to kind of like compare and evaluate the models. And then the model is trained by the pipeline and then saved into the artifact location in Vertex AI GCS, basically, I think. Yeah. So that's how Vertex AI pipelines operate if you don't know already. So if you're satisfied with the performance, you deploy it, right? So to deploy, we create a deployment configuration and merge it into the main branch, which then triggers a GitHub Actions workflow again. So basically, we kind of like model our automations through this GitOps thing. And this workflow creates a registry entry in the model registry that links the trained model in the GCS and with the corresponding model in the registry entries. So by having our models registered in the model registry, we kind of like allow ourselves to have like these flexible deployment types. So the first deployment types is when we use the batch pipeline. So basically, it's going to take the model from the model registry and then just use it during the pipeline prediction. And then for the second type, we basically just add another line in the deployment configuration. We kind of like tell it that we are going to use the Vertex AI model endpoint, and then it will kind of deploy it for us directly. And lastly, if you want more integration with your own microservices in the same cluster, you basically deploy it as a pod, okay? So, and then because we still use batch pipeline, why not kind of like also introduce the automation that we have here. So we basically use GitHub Actions again that triggers when a branch is merged into the main branch. And by doing this, we automate basically the pipeline compilation, pipeline config synchronization, schedule change in one go, which greatly simplifies the deployment process and making it cost-effective. And finally, of course, after you deploy the model, you want to monitor it. So if you want to monitor the status, you want to monitor the transactions and everything, we use Datadog for that. And then we kind of like set thresholds, we set alert that kind of reroutes, if something critical is happening, we reroute it into like a channel in Slack. And then, of course, you want to see the model performance because the model might be degrading over time. And then, so because of that, we kind of like use the dashboard in Looker Studio too. Right, so the struggles and learnings, I'm going to give like 2 examples here, actually. So like the first is when you do automations and optimizations, there will always be risk, always be costs, right? And about the risk, if you have like any sensitive kind of automation that you want to deploy, you need to have reviews and approvals first before you proceed with it. And obviously, because you're using resources when doing automations, you need to kind of like measure whether this, the cost of your resources is going to like, take over the, the return. So like, don't do that if it actually kind of like, go over the threshold, right? So, and then it's essential to stay updated with the tools, of course. But not all of the newest tools will necessarily solve your current problem. Some of the tools might not actually suit your current use case. So do actually test and then do some kind of POC to kind of check whether the tools that you are currently using will satisfy your requirement, will not actually create another overhead that you have to maintain, right? So basically that's it regarding the struggles and learnings that we have encountered along the way. So for closing, I hope this presentation has provided valuable insights for you guys. And basically, you have, I hope that you understand that the work our team is currently doing is actually to ensure the safe and trusted marketplace in Mercari. So like I also want to kind of like express my gratitude to my team members for their help in preparing this presentation. Unfortunately, Toyokuni-san is not here today because he's sick with coronavirus right now. So unfortunately, I'm the only one here. But I hope this presentation has been, great. Has give a great insight to you guys here. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Kelvin, for the amazing presentation. If there are any questions or queries, please raise your hand.
Thank you for your talk.
Right,
it was really constructive, and for the small amount of time, it was really informative.
Thank you.
I was wondering if you have any tips. I'm also in Google Cloud. Recently switched.
Right.
do you have any tips on cost? Some places that automations has risen the cost, and maybe some warnings on the structure that you have been working with?
So I think when you're, one kind of like example that we have encountered recently, because we're using Vertex AI pipelines to kind of like do all of our trainings and inferences. Obviously, the most kind of like critical situation will be your artifacts, right? So the artifacts are all automatically stored inside GCS, and if you don't set a lifecycle policy on that bucket, it will kind of blow up. Yeah, exactly. So I think that would be like the first thing that you should do on GCS. You set lifecycle policy, and if you have any other cost reduction things that you want to do, you basically go into the billing, and then you kind of check on your project and then see like kind of analyze which one of the resources that is basically bringing your billing costs up, and struck it one by one. Yeah, I hope that helps. But if you have if you still want some other tricks, you can come find me and like, yeah, we'll talk. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hey, yeah, nice talk. A lot of things were covered. So I just want to understand, you mentioned a bit about template notebooks.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
and I think via template notebooks, multiple teams must be collaborating with each other.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So what were the considerations you took to create those template notebooks? And the second question is, why template notebooks and not Python files?
Okay, so why the first question was the consideration when creating, and then the second one is why not Python files? Right, so for the first one, the consideration is basically, because you are creating a template notebook, it obviously is going to be very opinionated according to your team, maybe. If you want to like share it into other team, like the other team might not agree with what you have created, right? So we basically keep it as general as possible. So like, some of the kind of like, the ML steps that you are going to do when training a model, I think that's kind of like immutable thing. So like you collect the data, and then you kind of like use that data, pre-process it as a features, and then you also, before that you do univariate analysis, multivariate analysis, you do like all of these steps. So basically like, as of now, because our team is like a 7-person team, but kind of like have different backgrounds, we kind of like kind of discuss together on like what kind of like things that we think will be useful on our notebooks, and we reiterate it again and again so that it kind of like captures the important and like tedious part of the experimentation part. And then for the second one, why notebook? Because we use notebooks, basically. So notebooks, it's easy, it's fast, right? You can kind of like, you basically execute like the cells. You don't have to maintain scripts. You don't have to kind of like maintain all of these scripts and then kind of import it. And then if you want to change things, you go to the scripts again and then you change it again. But if you are on notebook, it's easy. I know it's unmaintainable from time to time, but for now, I think that's a kind of like a trade-off that we need to kind of like, yeah, think about. Yeah, right, thank you.
Hey, thank you very much for the great talk.
Yes, thank you.
I've seen a couple talks from Mercari, and it seems like in the company you're using different tools for serving AI models, etc. I've heard about Seldon, for instance, a torch serve. You seem to be using Vertex AI.
Right.
I'm kind of like wondering what's the, how you decide on Mercari what tool to use. Is there like a common set of tools that you decide to use? Is it deliberate for you to use Vertex AI instead of like other tools? Just kind of curious about that.
Right. Honestly speaking, I think we are moving toward Vertex AI as the single tool over everything. So yeah, basically we are connected to GCP. So a vendor lock, maybe, I know, but right. I think Sheldon and like other things, TorchServe, do we still use it? At least in our team, we don't. But I think basically every team has their own, set of like kind of goals that they want to achieve, and like we basically kind of keep the freedom of each team to select their own tools. But when you want to share with other teams, they're like, common tools that we use together. So I think that's how we kind of separate, the tools between the team and the tools when integrating with other teams. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin, for amazing session. We are out of time. If you have any queries or concerns or any confusions, you can discuss with the speaker outside of this hall or in Passway. Please do not hesitate to ask or network with him in person.
Yes.
Please give him a huge round of applause for his amazing session.
Thank you. Thank you.